Welcome to the video edition and the Postmortem edition of NetFront. I'm Jeff Gordon, Post-Dispatch, joined by our beat reporters, Jim Thomas and Tom Timmermann. Well, first thing, guys, JT, in a nutshell, what the heck went wrong?
After 14 freaking days in quarantine, I sure didn't want to come home this quickly. Very surprising. I think we all knew, we discussed, that Vancouver was going to be a tough out, based in part on what we saw in the regular season series. But boy, I sure thought the Blues would find a way to get through this. Especially they're up 3-1 in Game 5. But no, and I think the question that'll linger into the offseason is why wasn't the energy there? Why weren't they necessarily fully invested, or why wasn't the total buy-in there? Now, Doug Armstrong shed a little bit of light on it in his end-of-season media session with the COVID-19. I mean, the news part of that, we reported back on July 5th that there were 4 players, and I think Vince Dunn may have been the 5th that came later than that. But one, we got confirmation from the team that this was indeed the case. They had not commented basically at all on that, but also the big part was that none of the players were asymptomatic, and some of the symptoms may have affected their play. I mean, they talked about players losing a lot of weight and not getting it back, and I look at Parayko. He looked very thin to me out on the ice. So that's part of the issue. Some of their COVID-19 guys weren't maybe, even though they were no longer positive, that they weren't up to snuff. But I don't think that explains it all away. I mean, there are a bunch of other players on the team that maybe didn't quite have the buy-in.
They got there and they played a Vancouver team which got games out of people. I mean, you got Markstrom saved them on a couple occasions. Game 5 could have gotten out of control. He saved Vancouver there, and the Blues didn't get that from their goaltending. The Blues did not get that series-saving victories that they'd gotten in the past from Binnington or from Allen.
Yeah, and just uncharacteristic mistakes too. I mean, and lots of them. I mean, as LaRussa says, they're men, not machines. But boy, they made so many mistakes that are un-Blues-like.
And the other bit of unfortunate news coming from the postmortem was that, and it really no surprise here, that number 91 needs some more work on his shoulder, officially putting the rest of his career, I think, into severe question. He has tried to make the case that he'll be back on Instagram, but JT, it's a tough road. I mean, he's going to miss the bulk of next season at best, and going forward, he and his salary cap hit are going to be an issue for this team.
Yeah, I think it's 3 years left at 7.5 per year. You knew when the Blues said they weren't going to announce anything until after the Vancouver series that it probably was, he's day to day, it's a scar tissue or whatever. And I wrote back after the second surgery, because I've talked to doctors about this, doctors that have performed shoulder surgeries, that the more you dislocate a shoulder, the more it's likely to get dislocated. That those ligaments and tendons, at least in the shoulder area, you can only stretch them so much and tighten them so much. So, I think that the warning signs were there back after the second surgery that this may be a chronic thing. And my goodness, he had 9 months to recover, plenty of time to recover and strengthen it. I guess we were full, Tom, in camp, at least the week I was there. You were there for the full 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. He looked great, but again, no real contact, none of the stress on the body of playing in a real game, especially a playoff type game. And yeah, I agree with you, Jeff. This doesn't look like it's going to go away. Does he have to play with his shoulder harness? How does that affect his shot? I mean, and you give Tarasenko credit for what he said on Instagram, but it's not a pretty picture right now.
No, the one thing is, we don't know when next season is going to begin. Does it begin in December like the league hopes? Does it not begin until January? 5 months, it could be, if the season is delayed, he might not miss that much, but is that something that the Blues want? When would you rather get him back? How's it all going to work? Because who knows what next season looks like?
And guys, the other big issue of the day and the week and the month and probably the year so far is the never-ending Alex Pietrangelo saga, which will come to an end. Either he's going to commit to returning to the Blues, or he's going to fully test the market and go back home to the Maple Leafs or whatever. Yeah, Alex spoke from the heart. Doug Armstrong gave us the business outlook. JT, what's your gut feeling here?
Well, and this goes back to just watching and covering contract situations in the NFL too. And I don't think it's too much different. My sense is if you get to the end of the season and you still don't have a deal, you're going to test the market. And Petro he's kind of been, when he's talked about it, which he's kind of been all over the map, because he said, yeah, I want to be back. Obviously I want to be back. But then he talked about, yeah, I've thought about what it would be like to put on a jersey of another team. So I think he wants to test the market, and I can't tell you that he'll be back. I would say probably, since it's gone this far, I'm probably more pessimistic than I've been for a while. There are so many reasons why it makes sense for him to stay here. So why doesn't he have a contract? And now, they've got to make a couple guys walk the plank, if a couple guys with decent salaries, if he's going to come back.
Yeah, that's going to be the tough spot for the Blues if he goes to be on the open market. On that first day, all of a sudden, like, oh, we can sign him, and now we got to clear out. Now we got to trade Jake Allen and Jaden Schwartz. I mean, that's a tough situation to be in. I mean, the Blues, I think, need to know before, a week before free agency begins, that what they're going to do, because otherwise it's just going to be a real messy situation to try to make everything happen.
Messy situation. I guess that's that sets the tone for how all things ended for the Blues. That's been Tom Timmerman. We've had JT, Jim Thomas. I'm Jeff Gordon. This has been the video edition of Net Front Presence. A reminder to see all of our videos and our podcast on stltoday.com. And if you haven't checked out our digital subscription or our home delivery, please do support strong local journalism. Until next time, we'll see you later.